So let me now turn to you, Nacho, and talk about maybe one of these modules. I hear there are some segments that we can listen to. This first one is all rhythm?
It's all rhythm. It's been really tough to choose between 16 pieces, one piece to show you. It's been super tough. But, finally, we have chosen one that really shows the purpose of inTime in this combination of rhythm that generates movement and sound frequency stimulation. So the piece that we're gonna listen to now, it's a piece that you know that we have 3 phases, as we have talked. The first phase, 3 minutes, which we have all the frequency ranges and a rhythm that is kind of steady. And in my purpose was to compose, as we were saying now, patterns that fit together within a pulse, but starting to challenge the brain right away. Really trying not to give you like an easy pattern to follow. Is like, I'm gonna give you different patterns with different meters that are joined with a common pulse. So the challenge here is like recognize the different patterns that are coexisting together at the same time, in the belief that the brain really can understand that big picture and those small puzzles if there is coherence. And what brings coherence? The pulse. So what we're going to listen is a piece that in the B phase is going to work out the mid-frequency ranges. And in the way that we're doing that, you're gonna feel that suddenly we're gonna lose sound, but we're gonna, and then the compact polyrhythm that is being offered is gonna a little bit open, and it's gonna be a dialogue of a lot of stimulation on mid-frequency coming, generated with the sound of a cajon. So then the brain can really pay attention to the different sounds coming from different places, because in the production, in the mix, the therapeutic mix that we have done, we work a lot about spatial dynamics to really surprise the brain, to really, so you can always having a new sound coming from the right, then coming from the left, then coming from in front. And then in this case, the focus on the mid-range frequency is going to really help you to focus. Really helps to the communication skills, the articulation of language. And then after this phase, you're going to feel how suddenly, again, all the frequency spectrum is going to come, completing the puzzle. And that's how, for me as a composer, it's been such a challenge to work with these 2 guys. And also, yeah, because I have a really specific frame in each composition that I have to achieve. And I can do whatever I want creatively, but then I have to negotiate with these 2 guys. Like, well, are you achieving the frequencies? Where are the frequencies? Are you doing the bursting? Are you doing all these techniques? And it's been super challenging, and I learned a lot. And I think that with this team, the achievement is amazing, because we have all these traditional rhythms fitting together through my brain, also composing, but also really hitting that frequency ranges that the brain recognizes and that can really relate to certain brain functions. And then at the end of the module, of each module, we have an integration of everything, which has been such a job also done with Sheila Allen and me, production, you know. We negotiate a lot, you know, about, no, less volume, more volume, no, I want this like that. It's like, it's been intense. So this is, for example, the result of a really complex module that I really want to show. We really want to show you something that is engaging the brain.
How many minutes is this piece?
It's 9 minutes. Each minute is 9 minutes. Each piece, each module is 9 minutes. Okay. So we're going to listen to that. So just...
Any suggestions for how to listen, or leave it to...
Just feel relaxed, feel comfortable, and that's, you know, and see how is the experience, you know. And one thing that I want to share, it's important for me to share about the composition is like, the A section and C section are based in a composition in a rhythm of 5. This is really important for me to tell you. That rhythms in odd rhythms and odd meters generate alternance in the brain, because it's always the one of the cycle always changes. So I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. You see that the one always alternate. So I believe that is really for our binaural system that generates a lot of movement inside of that. Talking about movement, sometimes we think that a rhythm like tum pakat takatum pakat takatum patat takatum patak, that really moves you. But a rhythm that does canting, punking, tim, punking, tanking, tim, punking, punking, is generating movement inside. So my challenge is to compose with rhythms that generate movement inside and also generate movements outside. So what I did in this composition is this rhythm in 5 with a flamenco, a traditional flamenco rhythm in 6 and 12 cycles. So what we're having is, and also for the brain, we really talk a lot about that. Composing rhythm is like we have one rhythm and is the core, but when the flamenco rhythm gets in, a bigger cycle gets generated. So then the brain is be able to understand a bigger cycle and then the small cycles within, which is how we believe that the system works, you know, in our body and in our brain. That makes sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're eager to listen to
Yeah, okay, so let's talk, I'm more listening.
different instruments did you bring together? Thank you.
More than 100.
Wow. And how many pieces?
There's 32 pieces.
32 pieces. So, you know, this is a lot of work. So how do you even approach this type of scale of, you know, production with composing and playing and different tracks and different instruments? What kind of thinking goes behind all of that production? Of course, I know you collaborate with Alex and Sheila, but
yeah, but it's a big challenge when you have to cover all the frequency ranges that the brain can recognize, and then, I mean, if I have to look that I have 32 compositions of a minute ahead of me, I would never do it. I just start with the first one, and then the next one, and the next one. But it was really helpful to do like a big catalog of all my instruments, and we measure all the frequencies that all my instrument has, so I can have like a palette of sounds that then I can compose. So I basically consider myself like a painter. So I have all this palette, all these frequency ranges that I have to achieve, and I have to compose for each certain module. So then I start composing with that palette.
And then where does that part, of course, is expertise, your years of, you know, musicianship, being a musician and kind of using all your skills. So there's an art to it, and of course there's the science, the algorithms that come in, which I guess Sheila and Alex also collaborate on. So let me actually turn to Sheila. You've been in occupational therapy for how many years?
Oh, gee. Over 30.
Over 30 years, okay. So now you bring that experience, and then you collaborate with Nacho and with Alex. How does that help the production? How do you actually bring your clinical experience into producing inTime?
My clinical experience, I think, has contributed in a lot of ways, and probably the most substantial way is I've had a lot of practical experience with clients over the years, watching their responses to different types of sound stimulation that I've been using or other people have been using with them. So I've got a pretty good sense of just what's there in terms of some of the different psychoacoustic modifications that can be done to music in order to affect different changes. For example, you might have noticed as you were listening in here today that in that middle section, there was a lot of contrast involved. So there were more dynamic volume changes there that, believe me, if you had headphones on and you were listening to that, your attention would be right there.
And as Nacho, I'm sorry, but as Nacho also mentioned, there's also spatial kind of movements.
Yes.
And of course, any change, any novel shift, the brain likes, the brain orients towards that. So that's
So we've really concentrated a lot of that in that middle phase because, you know, we have a goal, in addition to the rhythm awareness in this project, of really using the rhythms to support the frequency progression. So that middle phase, that middle 3 minutes that you all were listening to, is where the concentration of the sound frequency stimulation is for that range that we have intended to feature at that time. So that's especially important there. And, you know, as Alex mentioned, we go through a frequency progression that involves the low frequencies, the mids, and then the highs. And you can imagine, as somebody who works with lots of people with self-regulatory issues, that whole idea of the grounding nature of low-frequency sound is really important. And it's something that we've emphasized in this, both in terms of it being the frequency range that we're featuring in the first album, but also using those frequencies, those grounding low frequencies, to really get an attempt to get the listeners settled at the beginning of each 9-minute module.
Right. Thank you. Alex, would you like to add anything to that in terms of how you interact in terms of design and kind of helping Nacho with not the composition, but bringing algorithms that in terms of sound, acoustics, rhythm, brings in that component?
It's been an interesting process, and it was really a privilege to be able to work with Nacho and Sheila. And there were other people involved. One of our audio engineers, Emilio, who's here in the room with us this evening, another engineer on our team in Utah, and a number of people that brought this project together. And our process is to put an intention on what the objective of the music is before we even begin. So what life change do we want to affect, and what do we want the aesthetic experience to be for that listener? This music becomes a daily habit, like brushing your teeth. You get up in the morning, you put on the headphones, you listen to a module, and you do another one later in the day. And in order to draw you to that, it has to be entertaining, it has to be engaging, there has to be an intrinsic motivation within us to return to that music every day. So it needs to feel good, and it needs to feel safe. Much of what this music is doing is affecting the stress response in our body, helping us to find a state of homeostasis and health through the listening experience. So when we have that goal in mind, there are certain references that we have to have. As Sheila mentioned, the low-frequency sound base is a calming, grounding reference. It's a place of home. There's an objective to keep the steady pulse at the midline within the body to help integrate the left and right hemispheres of the brain and our motoric development that corresponds to that. Then there are certain elements in psychoacoustics that we've known to work over the years, certain principles that are applied. So there's a bit of a also a palette of neuroacoustic and psychoacoustic modifications that we apply to the musical structure. So our process is a team process, first of all, or what are our objectives? How can we achieve those objectives? And a really critical part was this music cataloging process where each instrument was separately recorded, digitally spectrally analyzed, and then documented in a database so that we knew exactly what the fundamental frequencies were, what the overtone series were, what the dominant characteristics of the sound were for Nacho's palette. So then kind of had an agreement about how that music might be grouped. It was up to Nacho to bring that aesthetic together, and he did really an amazing job of that. And a real critical point was actually the mixing process, because each piece was composed, recorded, edited, then mixed. And we were very fortunate to have Sheila here locally. This is a team that's based in Utah, New Jersey, and New York. So we're working across the country. So there's a lot of phone and email involved, and some live experience. But a real critical aspect was Sheila's ability to come in and mix with Nacho. Sheila and I have worked together for 15 years now. Sheila is a clinician, member of our faculty working with our programs. So we've got a rhythm between the two of us and an understanding of what needs to be accomplished. And she and Nacho found a rhythm in the production. It just all kind of melded together.
Many decisions to be made, I'm sure. And
yes. Every measure is a decision.
Yes, absolutely.